Hello and welcome back to the Podium Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about the 2024 Azerbaijan Grand Prix preview. Hope you like the catchphrase, but yeah. So obviously coming into a double header now, we finished the European part of the season, and we're coming into a track which does maybe not in the last couple of years, but has definitely thrown a lot of obstacles at the drivers. It's a very quick track, yet on the street circuit, it's one of a kind, to be fair. I mean, you've got that long 1.4 mile straight all the way down to the first corner, which really does prove to be quite the overtaking spot. But then you've got the really twisty, going through the castle section in sector 2, which always proves quite difficult for the drivers, as we saw in many examples over the last couple of years since its introduction in 2016. And so before we get into this year, obviously we take a look back at what happened last year, where it was a sprint weekend, with Sergio Perez winning both the sprint and the race. Not by much. I mean, the race was won by only 2 seconds to his teammate Max Verstappen. But I think the biggest talking point, and I think a talking point which will definitely be relevant in this year's Grand Prix, is Charles Leclerc's pace around here. He's definitely got a very good sweet spot for this track. He took pole last year in the sprint, shootout, and in the main qualifying session. And so I think coming into this year, Ferrari do have a very strong chance of repeating what they did last year. I mean, we look at Monza 2 weeks ago and you think, oh, they shouldn't have won that race. But coming here, they do have a really strong chance. Maybe not about the race, but definitely about pole position. And if they can maybe hold on to that pole position, then I think that they definitely got a good chance of winning the race. I mean, they brought some upgrades to Baku in order to help with tyre degradation, even though they're quite good on their tyres, which might help in the race, considering the nature of the street circuit is very hard on your tyres, and that's why someone like Perez, who's very good on their tyres, does prove to be the quicker duo out of his teammate, a 3-time world champion in Max Verstappen. But let's move on to Circuit Check, our next segment of a preview of a Grand Prix. Obviously, very quick, as I said before. You've got that huge straight. I think it's the longest straight on the calendar, which is great for overtaking. It's also, you got DRS as well to help you, and obviously you got that tight and twisty sector 2. But in all honesty, it proves quite difficult for the teams to get a good setup around here, because it's kind of like Spa in that sort of sense, where you need to make sure you've got good straight line speed, but enough downforce to make sure you're not like a sitting duck in the corners. And that's why someone like a Red Bull might struggle here. In Spa, they did struggle. Maybe not in qualifying. Qualifying was different. It was in the wet. But in the race, they did struggle. You look at Checo, who started on front row. They just can't find that sweet setup, which they did, in 21, 22. Even in 23, they were still quite vulnerable in their qualifying sessions. In the race, yes, they were 15, 16 seconds down the road compared to Leclerc and Alonso in P3 and P4. But coming here is a very different story than it was last year. You've also got the temperature to take into account. I should save that for the next segment. But yeah, I mean, you can overtake around the circuit. Qualifying is not the be or end all. I mean, you look at Ricciardo 2017, dive bomb down into turn 1. Overtook 3 people in the space of 1 corner. Overtaking is possible, and obviously with people finding the barriers, causing safety cars, which has got, I think, is nearly a 50% chance of a safety car, which compared to other circuits is quite a lot. Obviously, strategy will be maybe a bit all over the place. They do have a more practice session this year than they did last year. Obviously, because last year was a sprint race. So obviously they had only one FP session. This year they've got 3, and obviously for the new drivers, not new but new-ish drivers like Behrman, obviously stepping in for Magnussen, and obviously Colapinto, who stepped in for Sargent for the rest of the season, who is stepping in for Sargent for the rest of the season. It'd be good to make sure that they can, get up to grips with the car around such probably quite a daunting circuit. Typically, this will suit someone like a Ferrari because they've got really good straight line speed. Obviously, McLaren will still come into every race weekend dominant. It seems like they've got the whole package, but we've been saying this for how long now, that they've got the best car, they've got the best package, they've got the best duo, but they still managed to somehow maybe lose the race. So obviously it's still up for anyone. Red Bull might turn it around somehow. I kind of highly doubt that they will, but I guess you never know. Mercedes coming in here as well. They've got a slight chance, maybe a bit of an outsider. I think they'll be looking more at trying to get onto the podium more than winning the race. If we go to our next segment, which is upgrade check, it's clear to see that Ferrari have been the ones that have taken the initiative to bring a new upgrade compared to their 9 that they brought at Monza, which is they've basically have modified a new front wing to give them more downforce, which is quite critical around sector 2, and that's probably why in the race this might be a problem. They've got the straight line speed, but also if they've got downforce, and obviously with downforce you're easy on your tires, that they will be probably the quickest car out there. Obviously we don't know that until we see the practice sessions, but if they manage to hold on to in that obviously the first sector where it's quite rapid, and we saw that Monza they were quite quick in the straight, then in sector 2 it's really hard to overtake, so they might hang on to it. I guess we'll see. You've also got McLaren coming in with a new rear wing. I think what McLaren are going to try and do is try and sacrifice their downforce for sector 2 for the main straight speed. If they can manage to get quicker on straights, then it won't prove too difficult to get a pole position, because some majority of the track is straight, and also to overtake, gaining that more extra speed would be a lot easier to overtake. However, this does come at a high risk, high reward, in being that your tyres will be done by lap 15, lap 16. But we've seen that they're also not too bad on their tyres. So, we are really coming into this Grand Prix in a very, very, I would say, into the unknown. There's not been many Grand Prix weekends in the last couple of years where you can happily say, I don't know who's going to win, which is a good thing, actually, and at the end of the day, it shows that F1's become more competitive. If we move on to, I think, the biggest talking points coming into this race weekend, obviously, you've got the downfall of Red Bull. Could they turn their back? Could they turn a chapter and be like, okay, let's start from afresh? We already know where Adrian Newey's going to Aston Martin after this week's news. Let's try and, do the best of what we have and try and at least secure, maybe not constructors, that might be out the window, but at least secure Max's Drivers' Championship, because they definitely need to. It's still up for contention. We've got 8 races to go. Obviously, Singapore will be definitely sort of a bogey track for them. We saw that last year. And so now they're thinking in this double header, where can we get the most points? It'll probably be here. They did win the last 2 races, Checo in 23 and Max Verstappen in 22, and in 21 actually. Sergio Perez being the only driver to win twice around this circuit. And so they definitely need to make sure that they can at least score some decent points and not do what they did last time out in Monza, finishing P6 or P8 or P6 or P7. Because at the end of the day, it's not just McLaren that are, hunting them. It's also Ferrari. Mercedes might not be in it, but I guess you never know. There's still 8 races to go. Still a hell of a lot of points to try and get. And so, yeah, it's definitely game on in the constructors. I think also another talking point, which will be quite interesting, is this papaya rule scenario, which is something that's come up since obviously last time out in Italy, of will Oscar Piastri give give a position up, give a race win up, give whatever up in order to favour Lando Norris in this championship hunt? Obviously, the answer to that, which just came out today, is yes. Oscar Piastri, from now on until the end of the season, will give up his position, whatever the circumstance, whatever the track, whatever the occasion, in favour for Norris. I think it might be something a bit too late in this title fight. I mean, you look at Hungary. I know Hungary was his first win, but also it was still Verstappen not doing as well as he wanted, having a really bad race. Could Norris close down the championship? Yeah, he definitely could have by the 7 points that he needed. You look at last time out at Monza. I know that P3 P2 switch would only be, I think, 3 points, but that's still 3 points that he'll need to close down. And I think is something that McLaren should have definitely done. Enforce, well, we don't know what papaya rules is. I guess we'll see, maybe hopefully soon, if they say another time, which will give more clarity. But for now, it's official that McLaren are favouring Lando Norris for his title hunt. And I'll probably say the last talking point, I think, which would be quite important for this weekend, are the new-ish rookies. Obviously, they're not rookies. Colapinto and Behrman, they both had one Grand Prix under their belt, but now I suppose this is quite a challenge for both of them in different aspects. You've got Ollie Behrman coming in after his great standout performance in Saudi Arabia, but now he's not in a Ferrari, which is arguably the second quickest car. Then now he's in a Haas, which is a different story. I think there'll be a lot more pressure on him now because this is where he'll be at in 2025. And I think there'll be a lot of people thinking that, okay, fine, you've had one Grand Prix now. Now you're going to have 3 practice sessions under your belt. You're going to know the track. Let's see how you do. And I think I don't think he'll do as well. Well, we'll save this for the predictions, but I don't think he'll do as well as people expected, considering he's in a Haas. But I guess he only needs to be his teammate to almost shut up the haters in that sense. Also for Colapinto, second outing, second Grand Prix for Williams. Obviously this one will probably be with a bit more pressure now that he's had one Grand Prix, but this is a very different track to Monza. Monza, you've still got a fair amount of runoff area. This is pretty much completely the opposite. It's a tough track. It's very hard. The amount of times people have got it wrong around this track is countless times. The walls are tight around here. It's a long race. It's hot. Just looking at the temperature, it's hot. There is no room for error, which I think Colapinto will have to either sink or swim in this situation. But I think he's a talented driver, and I think he'll manage to do fine. And of course, the Williams isn't there compared to the Monza package that they bought, but I guess all he needs to do is, similar to Behrman, be there or thereabouts with his teammate, which sometimes might be easier said than done. Moving on to fun part now, predictions for what I will believe will be the top 5 in qualifying, the race, and something different. This is just something that the Podium Podcast has just come up with in the middle of the race. I think there's only 51 laps around here, so half of 51, 25 or laps. We'll see where everyone is. Obviously, and also we also got the biggest winner and biggest loser prediction. Qualifying, I think that it will be Piastri down in P5. I don't think he'll have a good qualifying. I still think he needs to improve his qualifying pace. Verstappen P4. And then Russell P3. I think he's a great qualifier. He's called Mr. Saturday for a reason. And I think this would be quite close between the two, the top two. But I think it'll be Norris second and Leclerc on pole. I think that Leclerc's got pole here in 23. With the Red Bull being extremely dominant, he's been thereabouts. I think he's definitely got a chance of getting pole position, and I think he will be on pole, and I think this will prove quite difficult for McLaren to definitely, get another win. Race though, I think Russell will finish in P5. Verstappen, I think, will stay in P4. I don't think he can do much more with his car at the state. I think Leclerc does not have the race pace. I think Ferrari just in general don't have the race pace from what we saw. I think the one stop was the only strategy that worked for them, because if you look at it, if McLaren weren't fighting each other, then I think Ferrari wouldn't have been able to have that opportunity to do a one stop and see if it worked. I think they would have done, obviously, do what everyone else did as two stop and fall back into P4, P5. So I think he'll finish in third, and I think he'll be a McLaren 1-2, and I'm going to go for a Lando Norris win and Piastri in P2. I think Norris will definitely be the quicker of the papaya duo for this Grand Prix. I think Monza was a bit of a wake-up call to say that if you really want to find this championship, you're going to have to obviously, wake up and start driving quicker. You can't let your teammate beat you when you're the one that wants to be favoured in this. And I think Piastri will finish second. I think it will be another papaya rule situation. Maybe Piastri will be in front, and Norris. They say on the radio Norris needs to be in first. Who knows? But I think it will definitely be McLaren 1-2 around here. And this obviously interesting one about the middle of the race. I think it's going to be Perez, Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, and Verstappen to make up the top 5. This is all just based on vibes. I'm not going to lie. This is something that I've just thought, why not? See if I can get this right. But who knows? Maybe Perez will be leading on lap 25 or whatever of the Grand Prix. Biggest winner? I'm going to say McLaren. I think McLaren will be the strongest of all the teams, and I think they will definitely get a 1-2 and dominate. I think that they will be the team to beat, and I think that they will iron out all the problems they've had, before and from Monza and such. And I think that they'll look back on. They definitely had some sort of debrief to look back on it of Monza where they went wrong and be like, okay, fine. I mean, coming out today, even in the media day on Thursday, it'd be like Piastri will play second fiddle to Lando. Lando, you are the lead driver. We will favour you in the championship. This is your chance to shine, and I think Lando will take that with both hands. Biggest loser, I'm going to say, I don't want this to happen, but I think Ollie Behrman will be the biggest loser of this weekend. I think that he will definitely do okay, but not as okay as people feel, because if you look at it, yeah, it was great. P7 in the Ferrari, it was great. He did well stepping in for Sainz, but I just don't think in a Haas, the level, people will have an expectation of finishing almost in the points, but a Haas now to a Ferrari back then is two very different things. I think if he has the expectation to be there or thereabouts with his teammate, I think if he's more than 2 places behind his teammate, I think it won't be. I think then you can say he's underachieved. I think you're bringing in a new rookie that's supposed to be this, one of the biggest new things for next year. It has to be you have to be your teammate then, and considering it's Hulkenberg who is a fairly talented driver but is nearing the end of his career, I think Ollie Behrman will definitely have the expectation to beat his teammate for this weekend, obviously. I mean, looking at our weather watch, I think with strategy, I don't think it will be. I think it'll be just like last year, one stop. I mean, looking at the weather, I mean, it's quite warm more than anything else. I mean, Friday is 30 degrees, 1% of rain. Saturday, though, there is a 59% chance of rain in the morning, so FP3 could quite be interesting. But in the afternoon, it's apparently quite breezy, which will make for interesting qualifying, I suppose. But it's still 27 degrees, and on Sunday it is just sunny, 26 degrees. So obviously, it's not hot enough for it to be a worry for the tyres. And I think it'll just be a pretty one stop, just simple race. Obviously, a safety car might throw jeopardy into it. I mean, it's a street circuit. That's always a possibility. Possibly a red flag as well. I mean, in qualifying, there might be a red flag. There's a high chance that there'll be a red flag in qualifying. But I guess we'll see. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully, it'll be a good Grand Prix this weekend. And I'll see you soon. Goodbye.